When making a horror movie, it is imperative that the deaths look good. You want the audience to see the terrible things that have happened to the victims and either be disgusted by it, horrified by it, or worse yet, cheer for it. Today we're looking at a movie that did not do this well. Oh, we see people get murdered, sure, but it's shaky camera mixed with an actor kind of jostling around and trying to figure out how the person is being killed or what's even killing them is not easy to do. This doesn't add a sense of the fear of the unknown, which works well when we have a general idea of what's out there. If we know there's a monster with large teeth and big claws, and it goes after someone, we don't need to see the monster ripping their guts out. We can imagine what happens because we know how deadly that monster looks. In addition to that, you can always do a follow-up scene where the police or someone else discovers the mangled body. You don't even have to show the whole body. Just a mangled arm or leg will be enough to let the imagination do what it does best. However, when you can't show a death scene really well, and then the discovery of the bodies, it doesn't even look like the body's really been damaged, there's nothing really to be afraid of. There's nothing for you to fear. And most importantly, it makes the threat seem weak. You never want your threat to seem weak in a horror movie. You want it to be something that the audience is afraid of. So, quick tip to any filmmakers out there, if you can't film a good-looking death, you gotta set it up in a way where the audience will have a general idea of what happened, and then show some aftermath to make them realize that their imagination wasn't even close to the real thing. Or you can be like today's review, Bingo Hell. Yeah, I reviewed a weird, low-budget horror movie on Amazon Prime. I'm to blame for this one. No one suggested it, I just stumbled across it. Anyhow, without further ado, let the review begin. Bingo Hell is part of the Amazon Originals / Blumhouse Productions series of various movies that they have put together on Amazon Prime. I was looking for a horror movie for an October review and thought it would be fun to do something recent. So I went through Amazon Prime, stumbled across their Blumhouse list, and this one had a title that stuck out to me. And then a premise that stuck out to me. It was basically old people versus a monster. I could be down with that. I made a mistake. The story follows a handful of older people living in the town of Oak Springs. We are primarily following Lupita. However, she does interact with most of the characters throughout the course of the story. Lupita is disturbed to find out that the local bingo hall has been bought by a mysterious wealthy man named Mr. Big. Creative. She's also curious about the previous owner and what happened to him. As she investigates, she discovers the previous owner dead and finds out that the other people who have been winning have also disappeared or died. So our movie comes to a climax with Lupita, Eric, and Caleb assaulting the bingo hall in hopes of stopping the monster that is killing those who win at bingo. It's a generally simple plot and adds nothing new to the genre. We've seen the monster moves into town and kills people thing more times than one can count. What makes this one a little more unique in terms of its story is the unique characters you come across, as instead of your usual teenagers or young adults, we are given mostly elderly people. Lupita is a cranky, older Hispanic woman. She talks in Spanglish half the time. She has some pretty snarky arguments with a few of the other people in town, and very much is defensive of the community of Oak Springs. While not entirely likable, you do end up sympathizing with her as soon as Mr. Big's influence starts to corrupt the community. We also have Dolores, a grandmother who is trying to take care of her grandson, deal with her white trash daughter-in-law, and more importantly, help Lupita defend the town. She's a very likable character and has some really funny one-liners. It's strange to think that a movie entitled Bingo Hell had some funny lines in it, but it does. And the bickering between Dolores and Lupita is quite funny most of the time. After that, we have a handful of characters who are more or less there to be our cannon fodder. We have Raquel, the white trash daughter-in-law of Dolores and mother of Caleb, one of our only other younger characters in the story. She's there to cause trouble for both her son and her mother-in-law. Then we have Clarence, Morris, and Yolanda, who are all elderly residents of the town, all of whom are just part of Dolores and Lupita's circle of friends. Most of the characters don't have personalities much beyond their job, and many of them are there just to be victims, which is kind of the normal rule for horror movies. You only have a handful of characters who have any kind of major influence on the story, and everyone else is just kind of there to die. However, the interactions between the elderly folks, especially in the first 15-20 minutes of the movie, provide some entertainment, and you get to know them and even feel sorry for them when bad things happen. And then there's Mr. Big, the antagonist of the film. He's the one who runs Mr. Big's bingo, and the actor seems to be having a good time chewing the scenery and giving crazy eyes. In fact, I'd say Mr. Big is one of the highlights of the film. That being said, he also represents some of the worst parts of the film. He is there for most of the death scenes, and unfortunately, those death scenes are terrible, and you really have no idea what he's actually doing to people because you don't know exactly what he is. He's clearly connected to some slime and things that look maybe like slugs, I'm not certain. It's never clear in the movie, it's never explained, and it doesn't make him scary when you don't understand what he is. In fact, when he's first introduced, I thought he was a demon, but I'm fairly certain he's not actually a demon. He's some sort of alien, maybe? I don't know. In addition to that, when he is finally defeated, they don't have any decent choreography for that. It is literally a first-person perspective where you see the attack of the good guys as they try to defeat him, so that they could avoid doing stunt choreography and probably makeup effects and things like that. Frankly, the defeat of this baddie is just a major sign of either incompetence or low budget. Speaking of incompetence and low budget, we have to talk about the audio and visual points of this film. One of the things that sets this movie apart is the audio. Not because we have some sort of amazing score that you need to run and find right now, but because the background music is made up of a lot of different songs that help set the tone. From various Spanish songs when Lupita is going around the town doing her thing, to a weird cover of House of the Rising Sun and a Sinatra song. Overall, everything kind of works. It's kind of interesting hearing these gambling-related songs getting played here and there throughout the movie. It gives it a different feel and a different tone. It doesn't really help build horror or suspense, but honestly, it really works for the movie and helps it stand out when it could have just had more bland, generic music that was completely forgettable. Visually, the movie is confused, would be the best word. There are a few moments of some good camera work and good use of lighting, especially during dream sequences and the overly tacky way that Mr. Big's bingo hall is set up to make it feel like a Vegas casino. However, all the death scenes are shot terribly, with the camera shaking and quick cuts that make it very difficult to figure out what the heck is going on. And there's almost no gore except for one death where the movie has some fun with some gratuitous blood. Overall, there really isn't a lot to say in the visuals. Even stuff like the slime that is connected to the monster isn't really scary, it's just kind of there. And sometimes some of the piles of slime look like melted candy, and that's not particularly scary. It's strange to think that we have some really good shots here and there while also having a lot of stuff that's just a mess of bad cuts and terrible special effects. In fact, there's almost no good special effects in this movie. I would be hard-pressed to think of a single one. But we have the good lighting and some good camera work here and there, so, it's not all terrible, at least. Overall, Bingo Hell really is kind of what it sets out to be. It's a monster of vague origin that has slime connected to it, killing people for the sake of food, I think. Yeah, it really wasn't that good of a movie. It didn't really hold anything together. The best part of the movie is that it was 86 minutes long. That's unfair to the actors. They did a good job considering the script they were given. The one thing I can tell about this movie is it seems to have been made to help a bunch of older actors keep their SAG status so that they can hold on to their insurance and get a paycheck out of doing this silly B movie. It just would have been nice if the movie had been played up more like a B movie, with everything being a little more over the top and campy, or if they had really just gone balls to the wall with the gore and some really cool deaths, with an interesting monster. Unfortunately, we got none of those things. I'm glad the actors got their paychecks and their insurance, but let's face facts, if this movie didn't exist, it really wouldn't matter. We're not adding anything new to the genre here. It's not good enough to watch. It's not really bad enough to hate. It's really in that middle ground. You can probably get a couple laughs out of some of the one-liners, and you can easily riff this movie. There's enough there to be riffed, trust me. But frankly, there's better horror movies to riff than Bingo Hell. So there you go. I did a brand new horror movie for this year's October reviews. I'll be back with a classic next time, or maybe a low-budget piece of trash. Who knows? I haven't decided yet. If you have a movie you would like to have me review, especially a horror movie, as that seems to be what I primarily do, please let me know in the comments what movie you would like to see me review next. Even if it's another low-budget, direct-to-streaming movie. Yay. While you're at it, please like and subscribe. It really helps small channels like mine. And until next time, remember, I'll see you at the tavern.